Hey everyone, just Josh here, and I'm at the Performing Garage in Soho, the home to the well-renowned, award-winning theater troupe, the Wooster Group. The Wooster Group is a New York institution established in 1975, and it's considered to be one of the granddaddies of all performance art. It's one of those artist collectives that makes the fabric of New York so unique. So it's only fitting that our first guests definitely add to the color of the downtown scene. Back in the early 90s, a gentleman named Jean-Marc Oumard opened a little Euro-style lounge in the West Village called Bardot. It quickly became the destination where you could see live performances from such artists as Joey Arias, Raven O, Sherry Vine, Sharday Pendarvis, and Evige. Bardot closed in 2000, but every year this gang gathers for a reunion at the restaurant Indochine. We were lucky enough to check out all the madness and catch up with what's happening with all the girls.
Your big cock, 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 your big cock, cock. Your big cock, 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 your big cock. I wanna see your big cock, 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 your big cock, cock. Your big cock, 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 your big cock, cock. Word on the street, you got a penis that's hateful. Oh, baby's arm anaconda, it's a mouthful. Oh, people bad, big and fat, heard it's uncircumcised.
I'm here at the Bardot Reunion 2010 with Sherry Vine. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Well, thank you for sitting down and talking to us this evening. So tell us a little bit about what is Bardot? What was it?
Well, Bardot was a bar in the West Village, and in the 1990s, when we were children, it was, we did 3 shows in a week, and it was really pretty much the only place you could see an all-live drag show. It was like Raven, Joey, me, Sade, Jimmy James, Lady Bunny, all these different performers, and it was an amazing, amazing must-see, people waiting in line, crazy.
What was so special about it?
Free Coke. No, okay. I think it was just kind of like the right time. You know, some of these parties, they come and it's all about the timing. And it was just it was this little tiny sliver of a bar with like what I called an OBGNY table as a stage. It was that tiny, but it just was magical, and people just would come. And really at that time, you couldn't see that many drag performers singing live, and it had everything. Raven doing jazz, Joey doing Billy, and I was Carol Burnett.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the next artist who's coming up here, who I owe so much to this woman. She saw me performing many, many years ago at Bastille Day for Florent out there on the street. And then I had to do the show. I was working on the street. And she came up and she said, hey, you should come join us and perform with us at this new night we're doing called Bardot. And since then, she's taken me so many places around the world and introduced me to so many people and drugs and other things that I knew nothing about when I first moved to New York City.
What does Bardot mean to you?
Bardot was an event that happened because there was this missing element of like decadent jazz singing, and the event of dragness and drag singing live and doing beautiful singing and talking to people in a very close range, and so people were amazed by that. And so Bardot was kind of a little family, it seemed like to me a little bit. And it was very intense. It was very, the thing that was like, the idea of the being close to each other was shocking to a lot of performers, because we had Mark Allman from London who was going to perform with us. He walked in and he said, I can't perform here. I said, why? Because everyone's so close to me. So that's the idea, you little fucking midget. No, but that's the idea. It was all about like this, talking to each other and being next to each other. A song was like talking to each other.
Why a reunion? You do it every year. What do you think is so drawing these huge crowds of people to the reunion?
Well, we do it because of the money. No, I'm just kidding. It's just something, when I first moved back from Berlin, we were like, oh, we should do like a Bardot night. And Jean-Marc, who owns Indochine, was also the proprietor of Bardot, was like, well, let's do it at Indochine. And so this is the 6th year reunion, and it's perfect.
You know, Chardonnay had a liver put in, like an old Jewish man's liver transplant. So the Chardonnay is actually Jewish now. He's a black Jew. That's what you call the enigma.
The atmosphere, the people, the love, the energy was incredible. And everything just gelled. It just worked. I ended up there because I was a guest singer one night. And like an overnight success, I ended up with my own Sunday night, you know, because of Miss Joey Arias. Joey brought me. I met Joey when we were touring with Suzanne Barge. And that's how she brought me down to Bardot's, and it's been history. I've been here ever since.
As you know, I was an avid fan, and I was sitting on the floor many a Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday night. And when you think back on that period of time, when you were performing there over and over, like, what is like the greatest impression? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about those Bardot days?
I felt like I was in my childhood. Like I was sitting there watching TV, like with my family, and everyone's all squashed together, like in a little tiny room watching TV, like all like, look at that, and laughing together. That's what I thought. It was like watching like Huckleberry Finn and Yogi Bear.
Well, it seems like every year when I come, I know it feels like a reunion for me because I get to see people I haven't seen in a long time. And there is a sense of like community and family here. Do you think that that is a holdover and part of what you created at Bardot?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like tonight already, like you said, I've seen so many people that I see once a year here, and they're like family, people that came to Bardot regularly, and then there's also a lot of new people, like tonight I've met a couple of people that are like, oh, I've never seen it before, I don't even know what it was, but I heard about it or whatever, and anything that's an event in New York is really fun. Like, this is my favorite event of the whole year, right up there with Night of 1,000 Stevies. And so I really look forward to it. I was so nervous the first set. I was shaking just because of the excitement.
Well, it's the 6th reunion, and what makes, again, this event like such an amazing event each year for you?
It's like we are family. It's like Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas, you know what I'm saying? Family get together, we eat, we sing. We just have to do it on stage, and we invite all of the people in to come and see us and share.
And when, I mean, I've heard you sing so many different types of songs. Like, how would you describe your vocal styling?
I would say very eclectic and unpredictable, because I'm a, how do you say, I guess I would say an emotional singer. So music affects me different.
The night has been so much fun so far. I can't wait to see the rest of it. And you guys are amazing. And it's one of my favorite events of the year as well.
I remember you sitting on the floor all those years ago, right in the front, so I know.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, I swing by the newly renovated and super stylish rooftop bar of the Kimberly Hotel and talk to Renaissance woman Sylvia Tosun. Hi, I'm at the upstairs lounge at the Kimberly Hotel on New York's Upper East Side. With me today is Sylvia Tosun, who is a singer, songwriter, designer. You can't even believe all the stuff that she gets to do. So we're going to talk to her and see how she has time in her day to fit all this stuff in. Hello there.
Hi.
Well, welcome. I'm so glad you guys decided, to invite us up and sit down and chat for a bit.
It's my pleasure.
Well, first of all, the room is beautiful. So you designed this upstairs space here at the Kimberly Hotel. How did you get involved in designing? I know you're a singer-songwriter, which we're going to talk about in a second, but how did you end up designing this beautiful space?
Well, when I first moved to New York, going out on auditions and going to music school, and I actually got into a car accident and I could no longer audition, and I needed to figure out a new career. And I was volunteering for the USO, the United Service Organization. I approached the owner of the New York Health and Racquet Club, and in return, he actually signed on to become a benefactor for the USO and the military families. And as a result, one thing led to another, and I ended up working for his family, and they are into real estate and this hotel, of course. And I just started learning on the job, and I have a family full of artists. So I ended up developing a whole other career.
Well, it's amazing. You went to Juilliard, right?
Yes.
And so you were this legit musician, and tell us a little bit about that sort of journey, like how you ended up at Juilliard and your music. Like, when did you start writing and singing and doing all that stuff?
Well, I started singing and playing the piano when I was 3, and I ended up in music school because they accepted me with a full scholarship. So it was either, you know, pay and go somewhere else or not pay and go study opera. So I did.
And now you have this music career. You also started a label called Sea to Sun.
Yes.
And how would you describe your music? Like, you said you studied opera. Clearly you're not recording opera. Where does how does your music sort of fit in?
Well, music in general to me is a visceral experience. So I think that it comes from all of us. I think that you know, you can be inspired by something, I can be inspired by something, and if we go ahead and try to manifest that, that's where it comes from. But in general, it's been a journey because I've meandered.
And you did, or you do have a single called Above All, right, which is considered a dance track. What sort of discerns like a dance track from just sort of like a remix of a pop song? Like,
usually the BPM, usually about 128 BPM constitutes a good dance track. You know, there are all other things besides just meter and form. There's the danceability of it. I mean, if you're a trance person, you're going to like it at 133 BPM. If you like R&B, it's going to be a little bit more slow and grooving. But dance is like when you can get out there and move your body and you have something steady to rely on, which we call the 4 on the floor.
One of the things that I find so interesting when I talk to creative people like you is that it almost seems like, and don't get me wrong, that the actual expression of your creativity is second. Like, it doesn't matter how, like when you're saying like, oh, well, you know, you designed this place with no formal training, but it is just another sort of extension of your creativity.
That's very astute. That's exactly right.
So I sort of look at it like, you know, one of those Play-Doh things where like you stick the Play-Doh in and you can sort of change the shape as you squeeze it out into a star or a square. And it's like, it's almost, it doesn't matter what is in front of you, you're going to have this expression of creativity. It's really impressive. Well, and very envious, I have to say.
Well, why?
Because I don't think
everybody has a voice in some way, shape, or form, whether it's, you know, Play-Doh or clay or anything else. I mean, it just depends on, are you going to bake it and paint it? Or are you going to like smash it up and start over? You know, some people abandon their art constantly when they're born with it. So I haven't.
I think that's the part that's really just so impressive, and you've found so many different ways to express yourself and translate it, and so few people I know like really seize that opportunity in their everyday life. And I love that. That's so inspiring, I have to tell you.
Thanks.
Is there something like an amazing moment that just like that just stands out above everything else? Like
a few years ago, I was asked to perform at the Great Wall of China. And I learned their most revered song. It wasn't their anthem. It's called Molly Shannon, which is the jasmine flower. I went there and all of a sudden they're like, okay, you need to go up there for sound check. And I'm looking up where the North Tower of the Great Wall, and it's like 200 feet up in the air.
Wow.
And I'm like up there, and I had to walk steps. There were 167 steps.
Holy moly.
And I had to do this 4 times a day for 3 days, because we needed to rehearse and get the lighting and everything else. And then I had the Beijing Children's Choir cascaded with lanterns down the steps. It was just fanciful. And it was right in the middle of their Moon Pie Festival.
Okay.
And this particular night, they had dressed me up in a chi pao, a traditional Chinese red, beautiful gown. And there I am hoisting myself up those 167 stairs again. And when the lights went on, because it was by this time nighttime after they had done the several sound checks. All of a sudden, this was a moment. Full moon was like straight on. I had never experienced this before. I'm on the top of the Great Wall where so many people even died there building it, I just looked around and I realized that there's this incredible feeling of solace. And then I realized my sound wasn't on. So now I was like, oh, so it's quiet, the full moon's right here, and I'm about to sing in Chinese, and the sound's not on, and I'm like, oh, what happened?
Oh.
And then they had to start it all over again, but I had that particular moment that was only for me.
That's amazing.
It wasn't for anybody else. And then the show started, and I was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's a really good one.
It was like a roller coaster ride on the inside. It was incredible. So yeah, that long story was that one moment.
Well, that's really awesome. I have to say, you know, you sit down with people, and every once in a while for me, I find the interview is so incredibly enlightening, and this is definitely one of those, and you're so inspiring, and it's been
That's
a pleasure
sweet.
talking with you, and I wish you the best of luck up here, and certainly with your music, and so if people want to find your music, where would they go?
They can go to seatosun.com, SEATOSUN, or Facebook, or Twitter, or Google.
And they can always visit the upstairs lounge at the Kimberly
Upstairs
Hotel,
lounge
right?
at the Kimberly Hotel, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and the
Thank
success of
you.
this is really amazing, and everything else you have going on. So,
Thank you
real
very
pleasure.
much. I'm grateful to meet you.
And finally, a dream come true. In between shows and shopping, I managed to squeeze into superstar Molly Shannon's dressing room for a little chat and lots of laughs. You're not going to believe where I am today. I am backstage at the Broadway Theater in the dressing room of one of my all-time favorite performers, no joke, Molly Shannon. Hi, how are you?
Josh, it's so good to see you.
Oh, it's really good to see you. I'm so glad we got a chance before, like, all the holidays and everything took you away, and that we got a quick chance to say hi and
I know.
sit down and chat. Now, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
First of all, here you are backstage. You know, we're in your dressing room of the Broadway Theater.
Yes.
And you are now appearing in Promises, Promises. How did you end up on Broadway?
Well, what happened was I just got a call. I'm living in LA now with my husband and my children. We just moved out there about a year ago, and I got a call, I think it was like in September. My friend George Cheeks called me, who's really good friends with Craig Zaden, and he was like, Craig is going to call you about maybe taking over Katie Finneran's role in Promises, Promises, because she's pregnant and she's leaving, and I think you should do it. So I was like, really? And I was kind of nervous about it because I was having trouble with my voice from allergies in LA, and I was like, God, I feel so hoarse right now. How could I ever do that? And then Sean Hayes and Kristen Chenoweth started calling me and emailing me, and I got on the phone with Craig. Flew in to see the show with my friend George Cheeks. I just came to see it for a day, and I really wanted to do it. I was like, God, this is such a killer part. It's great, great way to dip my feet in. It's just the two great scenes, and what a great opportunity. And so it was just a matter of making sure that I could pull my kids out of school to bring them here for the run, so my whole family could be with me here the entire time. That was all about. So it basically came down to the principal of my kid's school, like what she was going to say.
Can you imagine?
They were like, you should do it. You know, Katie Finner was like, you should do it. It's such a great job. And I was like, I know. I just have to call the principal.
I have to call the principal.
Yeah. So it was up to our principal.
Isn't that great that the future of your career is in the hands of your elementary school principal?
I know. I was nervous to ask her, but thank God she worked it out, and so it worked out great.
And have you been having the best time of your life?
I'm having the best time. First of all, I really am a New Yorker at heart. I've lived here for the past 20 years. I miss it so much. I'm so happy being here. I love it. It just makes me so happy. I went to NYU Drama School, so I really lived in New York ever since. Then I lived in LA for 7 years, but then I came back for all the years I did Saturday Night Live, met my husband here, both of my kids were born here. So we really just have been in LA for the last year, and I really miss New York. I hope that eventually I can, really go back and forth. But for right now, we're kind of more in LA. But yeah, I love it. I took my son Christmas shopping today, and we went to Bergdorf Goodman for lunch. And I'm in heaven.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you lived in LA, which is actually where we met.
Yeah.
And so, what was the road like from LA to Saturday Night Live?
From LA to Saturday Night Live. Let's see. Well, I went to NYU Drama School, and I did this comedy show there. And people were really responsive. They were like, you should be on Saturday Night Live. And I was like, huh, because I thought of myself as a very dramatic actress. But then people who saw the show were all like, no, Saturday Night, Saturday Night. So my plan was to go out to LA with my friend Jean Pack, who now does a show called Celebrity Autobiography. Have you heard about that show? It's amazing. So Jean and I went to LA after we graduated. We thought, let's try to get into TV, and we're going to focus on doing our own show. Like we plan on doing like each doing our own solo shows or whatever. And basically, I decided I was going to do my own show. So I signed up for improv classes at Second City, and in those classes, I met a bunch of comedians, and I met this great guy named Rob Muir, and we put together a comedy show. And we would just meet in my little like junky apartment in Hollywood, and we'd meet every Tuesday. And he was like, comedy is king. And I was like, is comedy king? He was like, yeah, comedy is king. You should do comedy. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like, is it king? I didn't know anything. And so basically, we just really worked on this show. And I did characters like Sally O'Malley and Mary Catherine Gallagher. People started to really hear about that show, and I would work in restaurants, and I'd invite all the customers from my restaurant to come to the show. And eventually, Marcy Klein, the producer of Saturday Night Live, heard about the show through Stephen Levy, and she flew in and saw it and invited me to audition for SNL.
Did you, when you started on SNL, when you walked in that first season,
yeah.
You walk into Rockefeller Center, did you feel the sort of weight of like all these women before you, the sort of Jane Curtins and the Gilda Radners and the Julie Louis-Dreyfuses, and like be like, holy shit,
I know, I did. I remember being nervous. I'd gotten hired, and I remember I went to go visit a friend of mine, and he was working in an office late at night. He worked like the late shift, and I was like, all of a sudden I forgot, like, I thought, I hope I can remember how to say my line and move when I say the line. Like, I was panicked. All of a sudden I was like, wait, can you we were practicing scenes together in like a copy room, and I was like, how am I gonna move and act? And I was really nervous about that. And I remember my first line was it was when George Clooney was hosting, and it was an opening monologue, and all I was hoping was that I wouldn't fall or trip, and that I could just say my line and move without tripping.
Wow, that's was there a moment like after you were on it for a period of time where you sort of turn around and you go, holy crap, look what I'm doing, like, it really all paid off, and I mean, what a job. Yeah, what a job. It was really incredible. And yeah, I think the first time I did Mary Catherine Gallagher, I had all these like people coming, oh, my sister loved that, or like stagehands would go, my mother really liked that, and then people in the street would come up to me, and I was like, God, it really blew my mind, because I'd never had so many people coming up. I didn't realize TV, like how huge it is. So I really was really grateful, because I didn't get a break. I struggled for a long time in LA before I got that break. It wasn't, there were other girls that I kind of came up with who were getting TV shows, and I was one of those girls who was around town kind of for a while, for like 10 years, or like 7 years, and I wasn't really catching a break. I worked in restaurants for a long time, and I was almost ready to give up. So when I finally got that break, I was just really appreciative. And now that you've done like the TV, you've done films, you've done Broadway, do you have a preference for a medium, or do you like switching back and forth? I like switching back and forth, I have to say. I really love Broadway because it just gets you back to the basics, and I love performing for the fans, and I love performing live, and I love being on stage, and I like the Broadway community. It's just really nice people, and well, I love making people feel good and laugh. Like, I feel like if ever I feel too self-centered, or like I'm getting too into myself, I think, you know what, I am really good. I like to make people laugh and make people feel good. I think I'm good at that. Like, I feel like I'm doing what I was meant to do. So, yeah, and I love, like, when I go after I do a show and you talk to all the fans, I love it. I feel like I'm cut out for this, because I'm really outgoing. I happen to be a person who loves performing and doing comedy and being funny, but then I love talking to like the fans and stuff. I'm really outgoing, and I love that I can like make their day if you talk to them. It makes me feel really good on like a very deep spiritual level. Like, I feel like it just feels exactly right. So I hope that I can keep doing more of that, like just make people feel good and just forget about themselves for a little while and laugh, or just, go away from themselves while they enjoy the performance, whether it's, laughing or more serious and moving. I hope that I can just continue to do that. Well, does that make sense? It makes total sense, and it's really, really beautiful, and I can't imagine that you will stop anytime soon making people laugh, Molly. Thank you, Josh. You are so gifted, and like I said in my intro, like one of my all-time favorites. I love watching you perform, and anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Josh. And congratulations to you. I'm so happy to be on your show. Oh, thanks. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay, yeah, talk to you soon. Well, that about does it for today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you had fun. I sure did. And as always, I'll see you next time. God damn it. Here to help. Like backstage. I was the fastest line learner in drama school. What, you think I'm gonna learn these lines? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Superstar. Anyway, now what? I'll tell you what kind of bugs me, and it's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of a big deal. It's winter in New York City, and it's snowy and slushy and rainy, and I can't believe what babies New Yorkers turn into in the winter. It's like, everybody's like, oh, it's snowing again. It's like, it's winter. Isn't that sort of obvious that it's just gonna snow and it's gonna be cold and it's gonna be wet and it's gonna be kind of miserable? And if you don't want, like even today on New York 1, the freaking like, you know, traffic girl was like, I'm moving to Hawaii. It's like, well, go fucking move to Hawaii then. It's like, this is what makes New Yorkers New Yorkers. It's like, you tough through and then, you know, it's beautiful spring and summer and then kind of a good fall and then it's miserable winter, period. End of story. Sick of it. Oh, yeah, and then they're like, when is it gonna end? Well, you know what, it's gonna end. It's gonna end in the middle of April when it always ends. That's when it's gonna end. And that should be everybody's answer. April, period. End of story. Okay, that doesn't make any sense.